Yes, it was eventually used as money and gold coins and stuff, but it wasn't based on anything. It doesn't do anything. It's ridiculous, our obsession with it.
Kind of like GameStop stock, I guess.
Nice.
Nice.
Or Dogecoin. Yeah.
But that's great that you mentioned that, because the Anunnaki, if this is based on Stitchin's work, but there's a lot of people that do follow not Stitchin's work, but they've translated more cuneiforms, which is the Sumerian text, the ancient Sumerian text, and they do believe that the Anunnaki did have something to do with creating us, which is the Adam and Eve story, if you will. Right. But whether the gold story is as intense as Stitchin believes, it's still very interesting that we've become obsessed with it. They've created. Regardless, they created a civilization of where we are obsessed with money, coins, gold. And so whether they used it, whether they literally mined all of it, like Stitchin says, which is very interesting, or they just created a race that becomes obsessed with it. But I still, Josh, I still find it odd that, all of these countries are still racing to go to an asteroid, to mine an asteroid for gold. I mean, just for purposes of vanity, or for gold coins and money, and for people to wear gold. I mean, really?
Well, think about it. If 80% of all gold is used for jewelry, that means if we go to an asteroid, we're going to use 80% of that gold for jewelry. It's ridiculous. Now, in modern times, there is amazing applications of gold for space travel, which is interesting when you back up to the Anunnaki and why they were so obsessed with gold. It wasn't just their atmosphere. It was also their bodies. They were intaking it, and they were also probably using it for their spaceships and their technology. So it does make sense. But for all of human history, we were just dumb monkeys, making golden objects, which they didn't even care about. They just cared about the monatomic gold. That's all they cared about. And then using it for their technology, not just to walk around with it and look like you have a giant necklace. The whole thing is outrageous.
I mean, those giant necklaces are really beautiful, though.
Yeah, they are. I mean, I get it. They're shiny. I understand.
We use gold as protective coating on space flight and stuff. We have sheets of gold that protects. Mm-hmm. Doesn't it stop radiation and stuff as well? I
think so. But either way, it lasts much longer than the other metals. So, I mean, if you're on space travel, wouldn't you want the most reliable metal?
So one thing I did look up that was interesting. I wanted to kind of be like, okay, what is this crazy shit about gold in the atmosphere? Is that really even a thing? Is that something there's science in our culture that backs that up? And I found something kind of interesting, actually. Not just a tie-in of aluminum and stuff in the atmosphere to help reduce global warming, but if they were having real issues, I did find a really interesting article, a quick scientific study that I just want to read to you quick, just a paragraph of it, from energy.gov that goes into gold and CO2 and how it could be a revolutionary technology to help our planet. So from energy.gov, there's an article from the Department of Energy called Scientists Can Recycle CO2 Using Gold. I'll just read the first paragraph or two to you. A new chemical process has the potential to reduce atmospheric CO2 emissions by transforming CO2 into fuel and useful chemicals. Using sunlight and gold to exchange carbon dioxide into fuel may sound like a task for a Hogwarts graduate. But it's the kind of magic that researchers at the National Energy Technology Laboratory are performing to make a positive impact on the world's environment. So one last paragraph, just to go into the science a little bit. A glitzy new process conceived and developed by researchers and their collaborators uses gold nanoparticles, to efficiently convert CO2 into usable chemicals and fuels. It's a carbon-negative breakthrough, which consumes more CO2 than it puts out and could lead to an effective industrial scale way to reduce CO2 emissions. Now that's not monoatomic gold, but that's really interesting. So it ties into that's something we would use and help clean up our atmosphere. So you know how sometimes when you read these old texts, was it actually putting gold in the atmosphere, or did they need it as a chemical process to help it? You got to take these all as a metaphor. I thought that was an interesting tie-in. I'm always trying to find something that actually makes sense from some of these crazy stories.
That is cool.
Because at the end of the day, this is the wildest space story of all time, but just to think profound, it's so profound that all our religion is based off of it. It all stems from it. The major religions, not some of the older pagan ones. All of it. So is the history of humanity just an epic sci-fi adventure? Were we seated on this planet? And also, here's my larger point I want to make before I sign off, Matt, is I believe in evolution 100%. We adapt to our environment and change. That is proven beyond a reasonable doubt. But I think, based off this story and what I just think is going on in the universe, that intelligence life is probably seeded more than it's evolved. So I'm sure it devolves out there in the universe, but think about as soon as you're super advanced and you're starting doing shit like that, the odds of intelligent life developing are very slim, but the odds of intelligence creating other intelligence, in my opinion, is extremely high. So I think, one, gold is bullshit, and two, we're probably created by aliens. And there's more proof of that than any other fucking religion.
God.
All right.
Drop the bomb.
I like
Big dick energy.
Drop that mic. Drop that mic. There you go.
One last fact. Hold on. One last King Kong fact. Ready? This is cool. So this is what Michael Intelligence said, and I don't know if it's backed up for real, but apparently if you heat up monoatomic gold, it disappears at a certain temperature. And then when you cool it back, it reappears. So it slips into another dimension. And then I was watching a Michael Intelligence video on Gaia, where we work. Not a plug. I was just researching, and he says that, and then just moves on, and then never it never follows up on it. So I got to figure out what he meant by that, because that was fucking fascinating. It just disappears at extreme low temperatures. So I don't know what that means. And they said that the Anunnaki were really into that. That's one of the reasons why they loved it. So I'm going to do some more research and hit you back in a few episodes.
Or you could just, try it for yourself and see if you go into another dimension. You just disappear out of your meditation room and you come back.
Just coat yourself in gold.
I do that, yeah. My wife thinks I do that when I go to the bathroom. I just sit there for too long. She says I slipped into another dimension. And I'm trying to ignore the family. I'm like, no, I'm just being a man.
That's me time, man. It's me time.
The door is locked.
Don't open the door. Don't open the door.
I'm in another dimension. I took too much monatomic gold. All right, Matt, what do you got?
Boy.
Mr. O'Connor?
I journeyed toward the South Americans and had a look at the Incan people. But first up, a couple of gold facts for you guys.
Ooh.
I learned, here's some facts. I learned that, I had no idea about this, but did you guys know this, that gold is a non-terrestrial metal on Earth?
Ooh, like an asteroid brought it?
Earth only traveled here through meteorites that was created during cataclysmic stellar explosions called supernovae.
Wow.
So
I didn't know that.
It's not a native metal to this planet. It was delivered here from the stars, which is interesting when we go into what I'm going to go into about the ancient beliefs of where it came from. So, another thing is...
I didn't know that.
So gold's chemical symbol is Au on the periodic table, which is derived from a Latin word, aurum, meaning shining dawn, named after the Roman goddess Aurora. So it seems to, you already mentioned this before, Melissa, it seems to have this connotation with the sun over and over again in these ancient cultures, which is interesting in and of itself. Yeah, because it seems like they knew it fell from the sky, I
didn't put that together.
In fact, in ancient, the ancient Incan people, in their culture, before they were obviously forced into Christianity by the conquistadors, they referred to gold as the sweat or the sperm, of the gods.
Angel hair! Angel hair!
The angel hair of the gods.
Angel hair of the gods, yeah. So that's what gold was. 1 second. Hang on.
No, I've been relaxed to me.
You beauty. Okay, so then I got into, I wanted to dive into, the Incan thing, because obviously, there's reports of people looking for in South America, the ancient, El Dorado, the city of gold.
Yeah. I came across that in a lot of my research, yeah.
Yeah, and there was this, really interesting story of how these ancient Incan or Andean cultures used to give gold in rituals as a, not a sacrifice, but as an offering to the gods. And there was a really interesting story about where they were trying to dig up this river because they saw this South American priest, holy man, whatever, float out on a golden boat into the middle of this river. And he was apparently coated in resin and then from there coated in gold dust. And so he would, they believed that their god came from beneath this water, beneath this lake. And then so he would then throw offerings of gold objects into the water, and then dive into the water and like wash off all the gold from himself, and that was also an offering. But again, like covering yourself in gold is a way to become more godly, you know? Interesting thing that pops up again here.
Yeah,
Well-
back to that idea of the shining ones. But it's like somebody forgot what the story was. It's
Yeah.
like everybody was like, let's just talk about how like gold, like the texts say that the gold is the flesh of the gods. Gold is God, right? But everybody kind of forgot the story, and they just kept putting it on the outside of their body. But it's as if,
Right.
But everyone around the
Yeah,
world
they knew it was an
simultaneously
important-
was really into gold. Like, that's just bizarre, too. They were all into gold. Why was everybody into gold? All these major cultures that weren't
Yeah.
connected during the time.
Exactly. Yeah. So I got a lot of this from a blog post by a guy called Ashley Cowie. He's a Scottish guy. He's a historian. I'll say historian in quotes because I couldn't actually find any credentials this guy has. But I won't let that get in the way of a great story.
I never do.
But he's also a producer, and he's been on a bunch of those like Discovery Travel Channel shows that do a lot of these kind of things.
Yeah.
But he says in this blog post, so he actually NBC commissioned him to gather a team of people to travel to South America to try and like search for this sun disk, basically, which was this lost artifact of the ancient Incan Empire.
Wait. I'm sorry. I want to pause you for a second. I'm so sorry. Holy shit.
Okay. Yeah.
I think my brother worked on that. He went looking for the lost city of
What?
El Dorado, and I think that was the production he was on. I'll have to confirm it, but that's really funny. That's really an interesting tie-in.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
So anyway, this hunky Scottish guy, which is, I don't know why, when I was trying to find credentials, he was constantly referred to as this like amazing looking Indiana Jones type man. So anyway, he says at the start of this blog.
Wait, did he name himself
20
that? Did he like put that?
He may
He's like
have, yeah.
Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
Super hot
that was-
Scottish
yeah.
guy. Period. That's it.
Yeah, I think that's on his LinkedIn. Yeah. So in 2012, NBC Universal commissioned me to put together a team of historians and documentarians to investigate the disappearance of Inca's legendary golden sun disk, which was kept in the Temple of the Sun within the, here we go, Korichanka. Coricancha. There we go. Woohoo!
Nailed it.
Woo!
Coricancha.
I mean, I don't know, but yeah.
I
sounds
promised
like
I practiced that earlier, and then I totally forgot it. Okay. So this was in Cusco, Peru. So this place is known as the navel of the earth, as in like the belly button of the earth. This ancient city. Cusco was the historic capital of the Incan Empire, and the
I love
disc, which
Cusco.
they were looking for, this big golden disc, it sat in the most sacred part of this area, the temple, and it was it vanished just before the Spanish invaded in the 16th century. So apparently this Temple of the Sun was this like amazingly gorgeous like gold-plated temple. It had these like gold flat pieces of square pieces of gold that were like adorned the outside of this entire temple, and it was just like this shining, crazy-looking building apparently. But obviously when the Spanish came, they prized all the gold off the side and then basically stole it because, you know, theocracy, yay!
Yay.
So
One God for everyone.
for the people. So the Spanish records detail that the inside of the Temple of the Sun, they discovered hordes of golden artifacts used for the worshipping of the sun god Inti. For example, they had this like you should see these photos of it. It's pretty cool. This giant golden mask was recovered from this specially dedicated chamber. But the mask has these 41 sun rays coming out of the kind of zigzagging sort of sun rays that kind of emanate from this headdress. And apparently these represent the 41 Keke lines, C-E-K-E lines, which extend from the Temple of the Sun across the entire Incan territory. And I read somewhere also, like, it's basically goes all over the world. So what they're basically describing is what we call now ley lines.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, really?
They had this
They
belief.
connected that
Yeah,
to
they
ley
had this
lines?
belief.
Huh.
Yeah, so they had this belief that these Keke lines were these just like ley lines, these paths